very long, shouldn't be. The reason I say that is in general fund, our operations really don't change much year to year. Our longer conversation will be next week when we discuss projects, like capital projects, and that's typically longer conversations. So tonight we're going to go over the general fund minus anything public works related, as well as library. And courtesy to Diane, I'm going to start with the library first. And before we get started, I know Diane and I had a conversation a while back. Do you want to tell the board about any changes in personnel in the library over the next year?
I will not accept it.
Yep, I am going to retire at the end of the year.
Good for you.
25 years.
Yeah.
Just time.
Yeah.
Yep,
At the end of this year or at the end of next year?
this year.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is the 2021 budget, so I.
Oh, yeah.
That's why.
Well, thank you for all your years of great service
Thank
in
you.
the town.
You will be missed.
Well, I've been kicking it around for a while. And then when we had the shutdown, I found out that I had time to do things. Put down a new kitchen floor and,
Right?
you know, stuff like this, so, yeah.
And the extra time with your husband goes pretty well.
Well, yeah, amazingly.
All right. There you go.
Well, he retired a year ago, so he kind of got himself in a routine already, so as long as I don't mess with it, it's okay.
There you go. There you go. Okay. Thank you, Diane. And I'm going to ask Diane to come back one more time at the board meeting and give her final report, if you don't mind. Probably December, if that works.
Mm-hmm, it should.
And your last day is the end of the year?
Yeah.
Last day? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How does it work for a replacement? Is the library district do that? Is the town? Or is that...
Technically by code it's the town, but I defer to the library board to make that recommendation, and the board will ratify it.
And actually, the job description and everything will be listed on the High Plains Library District website. I don't think it's not up yet, but it should be pretty soon.
Got some training, huh?
What's that?
Got some training to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It depends on who it is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You should become a consultant in your spare time.
Yeah.
Go around libraries and show them how to do stuff. All right, well, thank you, Diane. Start with the library. Short section on revenues, they're pretty much a tax-based revenue source. The $43,061 is a 1% mill from the town mill levy. We talked a little bit about that last night, after the budget report. Another big revenue source is the taxing authority, or the portion of the High Plains Library District, which I don't have those confirmed numbers yet. So I just put in a placeholder. I know it'll be less because the overall mill levy was less this year, which surprised me.
They're anticipating somewhere between 10 and 15% less.
Yeah. So last year was 819. I just penciled in 8 or 780 for right now. And then interest rates for our earnings on college trusts and their accounts are a little less, so I lowered that. Your solar panels are still doing pretty darn well. So I bumped that up a little bit for you for revenues, but overall revenues are anticipated to be a little less because of the property tax. So there are your expenditures, Diane. What I'm going to ask the staff to do tonight is somebody discuss any changes from the previous year or this year to next year, because otherwise it really doesn't change a whole lot. So, but
Yeah, we don't have any renovation projects or anything planned, so we're just gonna have to hang out a couple of years and see what revenue's gonna do.
and Diane already gave me what the library board gave for payroll for 2021, so that's been implemented into their budget. I stay out of that. That's the library. And it looks like for the most part, Diane, pretty much held the line. Audio visual stuck out. Are we doing less next year? Is that a typo on my part?
No, we actually did the AV less simply because it didn't look like we were going to hit what we even had budgeted this past year.
And projections are not accurate because those are still yet to be determined.
Right.
Because it's a percentage base. But I told the board it usually tapers off quite a bit the last quarter of the year. So is that 1,200 for next year correct, or is that my typo?
Or what?
For AV?
Still seems
It should
low.
be 12,000.
12,000. Okay.
Yeah.
I missed a zero. I missed, sorry. Okay.
You know what, that was on my end. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'll admit it.
Nope, I wondered about that. I didn't bring a worksheet with me.
Yeah.
And Naomi's still in charge of all the programming for children and adults?
Yep. Both kids and adults, yes. And, you know, not knowing what the next year is going to bring with in-person programming, everything is such a ballpark right now. We just don't know. Just simply don't know.
It's tough to forecast.
Yeah.
Okay. So no capital projects, renovations, anything new to the building?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
That can be somebody else's headache.
Well, like the library cap items, it's still percentaging up more, but after David Green does the financials next week, I'll see those numbers and I'll adjust all the projections for you.
And the executive director at HPLD thought that we might be getting some very preliminary stuff on the revenue
Okay.
within the next week.
Yeah.
I don't think anything is going to be set in stone until December, from the way it sounds.
And that's what the Will County assessor did, is he, because everything was pushed back because of COVID, they went and released to all the municipalities a pre
Right.
assessment.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going off on the mill levy. So, but they thought it'd be pretty accurate. So, but I'll just wait till I hear from you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as soon as I get something, I'll shoot it over to you.
Okay. And on the Gilchrist side of things, we'll just go past the payroll part. Not really seeing changes. Except, street paving materials was a lot lower.
It is. We've got a really good collection in there now. It's taken us a couple of years to get to that point. And so now it's just a matter of adding to as stuff comes out.
Okay. Otherwise, the library's fund balance is still pretty strong.
Yeah.
You have a good cash reserve.
You know, the board's always been very conscious of that.
Well, that was short and sweet.
Yeah.
Diane?
I'm not even done eating.
You can stay as long as you want.
Yeah.
Help us out with the rest of the budget.
Yeah. I'll stay as long as it takes me to eat that brownie when I'm done here.
Okay, well, if there's no question on the library, I'm gonna scroll back up to the start of the general fund. You know, revenues last night. So I talked to the board last night about, how we built in a section for salaries and benefits. When David Green, when I approached David Green about this, he said, well, let's look at a couple of different things. In last year's budget, we had very small funds for legislative, executive, and judicial. So legislative and executive is basically 7 of you. The mayor has executive, you are legislative. David said most towns will simply have one elected official's budget section. So he wanted to combine it, so I'm proposing that tonight. We kept the trustee and the mayor's salaries separate for tracking purposes. Otherwise, everything else was essentially combined between the two. And there really wasn't much difference. The only change would be travel, training, and meetings, and that is typically, the mayor has a portion of the budget she needs to use for her duties. Otherwise, the rest of it goes for CML for elected officials. So this conversation every year is, CML is in Snowmass. Mary, do you remember? I think it's in Snowmass in 2021. Of course, we don't know if it's going to happen yet, but for budgetary purposes, we usually budget, help me out, Mary, about 1,000 per, I think.
About, yeah, the housing is high,
The housing, the
the
registration.
registration isn't that bad, but
So about 1,000 roughly per board member to attend that conference for travel, housing, meals, and registration. Housing is the most expensive, usually about 3 nights. So the question tonight on this part of the fund is, if CML does occur, how many do we anticipate going besides probably the mayor?
I haven't gone yet, I'd like to go.
Okay. Alright. I put in 6,000 total. So I usually reserve at least $1,000, $1,500 for the mayor. So that should be sufficient for CML. Unless you have any other questions, Amy?
I know.
Okay. If you notice, insurance and bonds is 0 throughout the budget because that's been rolled into administration, which I'll get to. That's our property casualty for workers' comp, or property casualty resources. So the 2020s, 21s is a little lower than 2020. Going into admin, so I mentioned executive, judicial, and legislative. So that was legislative and executive combined. That's the elected official fund. When I looked at judicial, another tiny fund, the majority of it was paying the judge and the prosecuting attorney. The rest of it involved paying part of Mary's salary, Devin's salary, and Kathy's salary, which made no sense to me. And that's just how it was all these years. So again, talking to David Green, talking about auditing, there's really no rhyme or reason to it, so we made that change. So in administration, you will see, and we'll get to it, but David Green maintained for the 4th straight year his contract amount, so I appreciate that. That's the accountant. Here's your insurance and bonds. So throughout the entire general fund, or property casualty portion of the general fund goes into administration now. It's just simple math, because why split that up amongst the entire general fund?
That's why the number got bigger.
Much bigger, because it incorporates all the other sections of the general fund. It's not police, it's not public works, it's not anywhere else. Except water and sewer. It has to be, because we have to track that separately. Small equipment's the same, employee holiday party, Cassell software upgrade, that's next to nothing now. We used to pay a ton for Cassell, this is actually Assist. And remind me, right, we used to spend over $20,000 a year for Cassell, now we spend next to nothing.
It's super expensive, yeah.
So that was a huge change that we made financially.
Was that because we changed over the software program?
We did a whole new software system. It's not as detailed, I guess, I would say, Mary, as Cassell. It doesn't have some of the features,
No.
but
it's not as automatic.
yeah.
It's more hand keyed. But we're small enough that that's okay.
Well, and kudos to staff for being willing to, that was a huge undertaking, to switch over to a new system, learning a new way of doing things. Definitely, thank you.
Downgrade their capabilities.
Travel training means are reduced slightly, just looking at the last couple of years. Computer consulting's holding about the same. We met with, I think his name right now, with Becky Point.
Oh, Andy Warner.
Andy, And then he said they're not increasing any IT fees for obvious reasons. So here's where I put the judicial, legal, and prosecuting attorney services right here. So that's not part of the administration department. This is tracking what we pay them, which we keep judicial separate, but it's really an administrative function, so that's where we put those three. And the new line item, because I always forget to budget for any holiday decorations. This is, you know, some holiday decorations that we do every year, not many, but mostly for the Christmas fireworks, which is $2,700. And I want to promote the Halloween and Christmas yard decorating contest again. And overall, that's, you know, about $500 or so a piece. We do first, second, third, a couple honorable mentions, and I think the community likes that. So admin went up quite a bit, primarily because we incorporate all the insurance and bonds in here, which is an additional $20,000 in this section. But overall, it all comes out the same. 6:30.
I saw 6:30 and I thought, oh, that's dinner.
6:30, 7, 6:30, 4, 5.
You can-
Comes out that.
I was never gonna write
7.
you out.
I know.
Once we spend 151,000 on holiday events in 2019.
That was a different line item name. That's where we bought Lot B. And
We missed the really big party.
That was a huge part.
That's before the corona.
I renamed this from the 2019 expenditure, which was the property purchase. And that's why I highlighted it, because David Green in the system has changed it. Or else when you print out the budget financials, it'll still say Lot B purchase. So he has to do that. We already did Rec and Seniors, you can go.
Oh, perfect. All right.
Sorry, do you mind if we go back? I have
Sure.
a question.
Sure.
And it has to do with the legislative expenditures. There's a line for election expenses budgeted for
Yes.
next year.
Yes, let me go back to that, sorry.
That's right.
Yes, election expenses of $4,000 right now.
And is there a municipal election schedule for next year?
There is not, but Mary and I talked about this, the board had talked about maybe having a special election in 2021. So we put funds in there for a special election.
Okay, and so does this amount reflect the cost that we incurred when we mailed out ballots in the last election?
Yes.
Did a similar expense accommodating that?
This past municipal
No.
election, no, on the mail-out ballots?
That's less than half.
So we need to budget $8,000?
If you do it by mail, that's hard to know. For elections, you can have someone call for an election at any time. Most places always carry a contingency, or at least a percentage of what it would cost in their budget, just because people like to recall people, they like to put issues on a ballot if the town doesn't do what they want them to do. Some of the things that we talked about, sales tax and home rule and things like that, it's just in there kind of as a placeholder and a starting point. And if you really want an election, then you'd have to figure out where to get the rest. But I didn't want to put in the full cost of an election, a mail ballot election, and just have it be tied up for no reason. That doesn't seem real responsible either.
So we did a mail election this year, and it was $3,400.
That's why I'm asking.
I'm not following.
Where else did the expenses, but I have to ask Gary Green.
Yeah, I don't know, but it was close to 8,000.
Okay.
By the time we paid the judges and the printing and the postage.
But normally we spend $1,300 when we don't do a mail election. mail-in order.
That's on the high side. I think the last polling place election was about $900.
I'll verify with David Green what our total election costs were.
Okay.
So if you, let's just say you put in a $10,000 figure for the elections, and you only spent half that. I mean, money can be transferred out of there, out of that line item into virtually anything else in the general fund, is that right?
The way we do it is, you know, if something goes over in another section of the general fund, you just underspend it in another section. It's all one fund. Line items are for tracking purposes.
Okay. And conversely, if you needed more for the election, you could always just appropriate it from the general fund. This doesn't necessarily have to be a more accurate reflection of the cost of let's say, a mail-in ballot for the purposes of constructing this budget document.
More than likely, the thing about this is on the last one, the cost for the paying the judges, and those costs were probably taken down to a different line item, so I'm guessing he did. This is probably only for the ballot part.
Could have.
And that
Or
would
the
take
printing.
the printing.
Printing and processing may have gone under office.
Yeah. So I can verify.
Printing, I don't know.
Okay, I can track that, I can update. I let myself know to update that. You wanna leave that alone for right now, okay?
Put a 0 and if anybody wants to recall somebody, they tell me how much.
Can't afford it.
Good idea.
Hey, you want your election or you want your pothole fixed? Pick one.
So going back to administration, we went through that. Website development, that's annual maintenance on our website for marine managers. Pretty affordable. We're gonna pass buildings and grounds till next week. Planning and zoning, it's a pretty straightforward budget. The only thing in here that really changes are plan review fees and building inspection fees. This is safe build. It's somewhat of a pass-through from what we pay safe build for plan review. And on the revenue side, we get typically a lot more. But it's difficult.
This is with our new fees. This is with our new fees. Do we just sign the contract for?
Well, that's just it. I mean, there's some new fees, there's some increased fees, but without building, I won't be able to really see how that gauges. Just kind of analyzing the town. Yeah, we've had a decent year as far as accessory structures and all things like that. But I'm gonna hold off on this one because this is not reflective of, I don't believe this shows these 7-Eleven fees from last month when they paid. So I'm gonna have to adjust these numbers. I just don't know what that number will be quite yet. They pay billing inspection fees. So when he does the financials and that jumps double, obviously I'll make adjustments accordingly. It's still too early to do the projections. It really is. We're really focusing on kind of more what we anticipate next year. But without any new homes being built or new businesses going in, I don't see it. Honestly, so I'm just staying conservative. Planning is pretty much held the line. About half roughly, depending on development review of Melissa's time, is kind of passed through. Like this last invoice, it was close to 3,000, but over 1,500 was passed through for 7-Eleven review and West Farm review. So we really don't show that here, it's just a pass through. Because they pay her time and then we pay it off. So. Police Department, Chief.
Close.
Thanks everybody for saying yes to our laptops yesterday. Those are extremely helpful, so thank you all.
Is that an exciting purchase today?
What's that?
Was that an exciting purchase today?
Yeah, I think so. It's gonna take a little bit for them to show up, but yeah, that's fun. Hopefully by the end of the year, they'll be working good. So everything more or less on line items remain the same. There's a couple hikes. One of them is oil and gas that you see right there, the event that you guys authorized the take-home cars for the officers. And it's kind of a shot in the dark, how much really it depends on how much regular unleaded it is all year. I think we should be okay on that, but so I asked for a small hike in oil and gas. Another increase, you just want to talk about that, right? The line items that I'm asking for.
Just changes because it's pretty consistent over the years.
Okay. Travel training and meetings lowered a little bit. This year we didn't really have an opportunity to go anywhere just because of the sickness, and I think next year we won't need all of it. Another change, legal services, I'm just not quite sure why that got raised $1,000. I didn't do that one.
Now, go back to travel and training. You're looking for an SRO,
Yes.
and will we have to pay for that training?
So they are sworn, they'll have to go to an SRO school. They have their separate line item, right down after this. But yeah, they have a separate line item for their own and travel training and meetings. And I think SRO school is a few $100. So yeah, it's not, it's a week long, and then you can take the advanced SRO class, and that's $1,000 or something. So
Right now, I've combined it.
what's that?
Right now, your SROs and your police are combined.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Because it's like legislative and executive, the only difference was, there wasn't anything.
Yeah, I see.
So we can increase that, probably if you did it right now. How much is SRO school, or, SRO training?
I remember right, it's a couple $100. Is what's hard is SRO schools, they hop around from one state to one state, and so we were gonna send an SRO up to Wyoming, would have had to house them, a car and hotel, so even that would have been $1,000 at the most for SRO school, even out of state. You can usually SRO schools is in a surrounding state, not fly off to
Hawaii?
Las Vegas, Alaska, yeah. And if so, then I think it'd be good if I went.
It's surprising they don't ever have any in Colorado. They're just.
They have one.
Right.
Yeah, they kind of hop around. There was one the year before last, but it was a national thing. They hop around from state to state. Hopefully get lucky. And I'm not sure with this upcoming year where SRO schools are going to be. I'm not sure if they've advertised that yet just because of the unknown. We'll see. And I'm not sure on legal services.
And that was me, Carl, you put them the same as last year, but I looked at the last 2 year patterns once we talked, and I'm seeing with the stuff going on along towards right now, we may need some of Kendra's advice in 2021, I just don't know.
Okay. Alright.
So I bumped up a little bit just to be conservative because last year, or 2019 and 2020, are right around $3,000.
Okay. Alright.
So
Makes sense.
I leave you out of the conversation.
Thanks.
Let's talk to the board a little bit about the computer radio fees, why it was so high in 19 and now it's so much lower. Dispatch fees.
So that's, I'm not sure if that's under that line item,
No, we moved it from this line item to the LA fund.
and that's what I have here. It rises, it used to be that we would give Weld County half and they would inherit the other half, and now they're saying that we owe more. And so, it increased approximately $1,600. And by 2022, it's gonna go up a little bit more. They say after 2022, that's gonna be the max, and they'll inherit all the rest from here on out. We'll see if that's accurate or not.
So in 19, it was dispatch fees, which is very costly, and then their annual payments to eForce, which is their software management system, and some other minor computer consulting expenses, basically. But with dispatch fees getting so expensive, I opted to move that to the LE fund and take it out of the general fund. So that's the difference between why it's 6,000 now, it was 20,000 a few years ago. So let me roll down to that and I'll show you.
Your eForce, is that what goes on your MTVs?
No, that's our report writing system
Okay.
for all the reports that we write. That's an eForce thing. That's and I think that the increase with eForce was they need to retain all this now. They say that the server we have is old, so we're going to have them retain it on their side, and that's going to save us money in the long run. If we've got a larger server, a new server, or a NAS or something else, then it would have costed a whole lot more than if we said eForce do it. And that also reflected on that 6,000.
So I went down to the LE fund, which is a special revenue fund, and this is a 37% surcharge reports.
Yeah. Is that in the cloud
Yeah,
or?
yeah, that's exactly
It's
right.
cloud.
Okay,
We're saving money by putting a lot of stuff on the cloud now, instead of buying new servers,
sure.
especially the police
Is that
department.
secure though? So you get hacked, you don't have a hard copy of all your police reports on site.
We have a hard copy.
We do, okay, you still have a hard copy, right?
We have a hard copy until we don't need to retain them anymore, and then we have to get rid of them. So we have a hard copy for up to a couple years, or stuff that we have to keep forever, sets of souls on site for each one.
So the LE fund, as you notice, in 2019, it was 0 for radio fees, and last year we moved radio fee cost to here, because you can see last year, County dispatch radio fees was over 23,000. And Carl, we see notice that next year will be over 24,000. And that's our Platteville Police Department's portion, well county-wide, of our cost radio fees based upon the usage of our share of the radio. So it's got really, really expensive.
Yeah.
So
What do
that
they do? They take your last year's
call number.
call numbers and they tell you this is your, it's just a flat. I mean, we're not gonna get hit with more if we have higher volume this year.
I think it's a
one time.
Is it a 3-year average, Carl? still?
Yes, but yeah, so every time, let's say we just we got slammed all next year, then our numbers would rise, because every time we go even from 911 hang up to an accident, it's $3.62 per call or something funny like that. So it's all on the numbers and the call numbers and the amount that we get for the year that makes up this call, but it isn't an average, it's an average of 3.
They did an average, this came out years ago, I think when I was still chief. And the reason they came out with an average because if the agency had a really bad year as far as radio use, they don't get dinged as much as they're part of the 3-year average. And yeah, dispatch still gets all the fees from 911 because there's a 911 fee when people use that number, but years ago they changed that and they forced this upon all law enforcement agencies in Will County. We actually met in South County with all the chiefs to see what it costs to start our own dispatch, and it's just astronomical. It's not worth the money. So this is one of those other forced mandates for law enforcement.
It's a mandate, and it's gonna rise one more time in 2022, is what they say, that it won't anymore.
But it's from Will County.
Yes.
Speaking of the MDT, so this is where I mentioned the board last night, we budgeted $55,000 total for vehicle replacements. Since we got the 2 CMAC vehicles for about $16,000 and just under $20,000 to equip them. So that comes out right around $35,000. So when I told the board last night, we're using this $20,000 that was supposed to be used for vehicles for the MDT purchase. It's gonna go over a few $1,000s, so we'll have to do a budget amendment by the end of the year probably. But this fund is pretty solid with about $150,000 total in it.
You don't think we need to budget for a replacement vehicle anymore?
Colin and I talked about it, but go ahead.
I think we're okay right now. I think for sure 2022, we may want to get a high rated. I say high rated, these ones aren't made to go romp on it in the event that you have to get after someone on the highway high-speed chase or anything recently. You have to go really fast, which unfortunately we have a need. I think it would make sense in 2022 to start setting money aside and then maybe 2022 getting a high-rated vehicle, high-pursuit rated. And I say that the Explorer is considered a high-speed. The Charger is obviously considered a high-speed. We have the Explorer, and that's the only one that we have left. The Chargers that we, when we get the new ones back, so we're going to sell the Chargers, and we won't have any except for the Explorer. So just maybe it'd be a good idea to look at 2022.
We will in 2022. Right now we have relatively a new fleet because we had 2 vehicles this year instead of 1. So the thing about the C-Mac vehicles, they're great cost, but they have governors on them. They're pickup trucks and they won't go over 93, 94 miles an hour.
But you kind of don't want to go crash on that anyway. In those,
So radios and stop sticks, right? Carl also has to pay annually a fee to help cost share with Rural County Victim Advocacy Program. And we pay that annually. That stayed the same. They haven't asked for an increase lately, have they? And Carl wasn't going to budget anything for police equipment, and I put $5,000 in there just for miscellaneous, replace radars or whatever you may need. So, and then just jumping into the revenue side of things, these are the 10%. Of those 2 contracts I mentioned last night for the Gilchrist and the SRO services. Those are put in this fund. And the victim surcharge is the 37% of the cost of court fines. I showed the board last night, you're going to get about 70, 80,000 in fines this year with the ticket writing. So this has been a pretty, I could have bumped this up a little bit, but I just didn't yet. For the last 2 years' averages. It's hard to tell because you're currently down in escrow and down in officer. Right. So you're 2 down. Escrow is like tickets all summer, so I have to take that into consideration because Carl's having a really hard time finding somebody.
For both positions?
unfortunately, yeah.
So here's the fund balances that I mentioned. We're spending a lot less money next year in the LD fund, so the fund balance is pretty stable for what the police department needs.
Carl, is there anything else like the MVTs where you're limping it along longer than you should have, and not without asking that we could address for you right now?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. We got new radios. If I can show everybody, we'll eventually need to get half of these are the older models. And it only shoots one, where, oh yeah, sorry, so this is a taser, and this one, if you shoot and miss, or if you shoot and land one, there's another one ready. Half of our other ones, you shoot one, and that's it, you don't have a second one ready, because you get lucky. So eventually I'd like to swap everyone out to have that second option. The ones that have these now want the older one, because they work in the school or whatever, that's what they are used to, so it's kind of secondary, but the handheld radios and the recorders that we use and the in-car radios and the laptops, those are all relatively new, so I think this is the last major expense.
And did Scott Officer Vine just write a grant, and part of that is for equipment, maybe?
Yeah, so we got a certain amount of money where we're going to get well, we have to buy a LiDAR, and the state of Colorado is going to give us that money back for a LiDAR. A LiDAR is a radar gun, but it's a laser. So there's a radar and a LiDAR. So This is the one that you look through a scope and it'll let you know exactly, or if there's a whole slew of cars, you can get one car with a LiDAR, whereas a radar you shoot, it's a mass, it's a mass in back instead of a singled out car. So, we should be good on LiDARs and, yeah, that's good.
Body armor, how's the officer in body armor?
Mine's pretty expired, so with I know you had mentioned it's okay to go ahead and get before the year's up. They have a shelf life and it's an expiration life of under 6 years. Mine's about 11 and a half, and yeah, I just didn't, someone else got it, or someone else wanted it. It's sure nice when it wraps around your body all by itself, you know, but, so yeah, I'll probably get one, but everybody else should be good to go, at least through 2021.
Can we make sure you have enough to buy those things you listed?
The thing about Carl, I should say, I know him for a long time, is he's been the hard way, as I did in law enforcement, that you're giving a lot of unfunded forced mandates for things that you can't afford, so it's hard to ask for anything else. I mean, take it for what it's worth, that's the truth. So.
I appreciate it, your frugalness. When you hear that you have officers fighting over laptop docks, give us more.
Yeah, them suckers were expensive, and they're making it work. We're lucky that we only have a couple officers working at once, so it works out pretty good.
So right now, just to answer your question, uniforms, equipment, Carl has already spent anything of his budget. That's why I told him get the vest. He's got plenty of money for this year.
Cool.
You'll buy that tomorrow?
Yes, sure.
You know what, with uniforms, Carl, this board approval is bumped that up to 10, because you got 2 officers to hire you. This year's 95, hardly spent anything, but equipping 2 officers fully is gonna be expensive.
You started out with the right equipment, right?
And what we do, when I came here years ago, the town, the police department would buy your basic uniform and your badge, and the officers had to buy everything else. I changed that, because I wanted uniformity. Every officer carried whatever gun they could afford, so I stopped that. Exactly. I wrote a grant, and we the Glock 40s, which are universal weapons for all. And I told the officers, Carl still maintains the same philosophy. If you're comfortable more with another weapon, that's fine. We keep your Glock 40 with you in case you're in a gunfight. You have ammo to exchange. We have a backup weapon. So yeah, we'll buy their belts and everything, but they have to serve so much time, or else they have to pay part of that back. They have to sign that reimbursement.
Most departments don't do that, though, do they? They have that whole mentality, you give the uniform and the badge, and buy everything else. So that's another perk that your department has there.
Yeah.
And that's why we did it.
You may not think it's a big perk, I mean, coming, be an officer in Platteville, but that'd be something, could be a benefit there.
Sure.
In hiring, officers.
I was here 3 months. Carl was my second hire, and his starting wage was $28,000 a year.
Big dollars.
It's come a long way.
Man, had to get all those kids on a tax break.
Personally, because of the tax break, Carl buys a new car like every year. Just kidding. Just kidding. All right, any questions on the police department operations side of things? Obviously, the insurance bonds is gone. We got the printer copier for the PD this year, so that's taken care of. The PD's been renovated. I haven't asked the board to go in there yet, but maybe this next time we'll go. It's got new carpet, new desk, new paint. Looks nice. It's actually a lot of room now before they're walking over each other. So eventually, I'd like to do that to the entire town hall. This is, except for the tables, this is original everything from 1996. So carpet's been pretty bad. Skip Public Works, Skip Street, Sanitation, Parks. That's next week. Recreation Department.
I thought you already did this. Just sit back and relax it.
Don't be surprised if I change your numbers, okay?
Plan
You
on it.
increased it.
Just plan on finding that out, though.
All right.
Well, Jen, I've talked, rec is tough because with the COVID-19, it's hard to predict next year.
One of the things that set people off as to why they will or will not participate. One person doesn't care that their kid has to wear a mask, and the next person, but they're not coming because it's a 1-to-1 ratio, and both parents and grandma and grandpa and the 6 kids can't come and watch their child play, so then they're not going to play, and the next person thinks I'm trying to literally kill their child by making them play with a mask. So, rec has been kind of tricky. Basically, we scaled back. Last year when we did the budget, I budgeted planning on max numbers, and this year I budgeted based on minimum numbers. So uniform expenses are for minimum numbers. As most of you have probably experienced, it's not been in the news, but the price of things has gone up because of COVID. So now on top of regular expenses for the shirts, the company that does our shirts now has a COVID, they have procedures that they have to follow, so there's additional costs with them. So trying to maintain, the goal is to maintain at least everything that we offered, fingers, toes, legs, everything crossed, that we get to have baseball and softball again. Working to figure out a way to be able to accommodate that should the state come in and still say every child has to have their own equipment, because that's a big piece right now for youth sports. Basketball and volleyball and soccer basically help fund softball, t-ball, baseball, and coach pitch, because those sports are so expensive. And if we had to have every child buy a helmet and a bat of their own to use, and we just covered the kids who couldn't afford that, it'd still be a huge cost for us, because we do have a lot of kids that need scholarship for those sports. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
I did put in, Janet, since you submitted the budget, $5,000 for your new copier printer over in the seniors rec center in Meadville. Mary obtained a quote, and we'll probably use that quote for this next year. Just under 5, like 4 or 500, like that, I think. And that way you can do most of the work over there, instead of going back and forth. That makes sense to me.
That included cricket?
No, but I actually have someone who asked if the seniors would be interested in the cricket. It's an older one, but I said yes. Just need a tutorial on how to use it.
Do we have enough money budgeted to give scholarships to kids that need it?
So right now,
we can get more attendance.
we get $3,600 from the United Way. And looking at how, again, this year has been really hard to determine how scholarships would naturally come in because of COVID. We haven't had the participation. So I would say we would get at least $3,600 from the United Way again. My guess is that $3,600 would cover scholarshiping. Part of the thing with scholarshiping is you don't want to straight out of the gate give someone 100% scholarship. You want to give them the opportunity to cover a portion of it. Otherwise, you have people that will they'll always need a scholarship. And I'm not comfortable asking someone to provide their taxes to prove that they really only make this amount of money. So it's the only way to really fairly spread the money out so that it goes the furthest. One thing that our rec software can do is on your registration, there's a thing that says, would you like to donate to help provide scholarships for kids? So we can do that as well. We would just need to set up, make sure that for Mary's end, there's that's okay on her end to do. Because when the money comes in, I don't know if it can all just go into the same bucket, or because we'll need to be keeping track of that money that's for scholarships, so that if we run out of the 3,600, we could use it. Or if we had a special situation like that, money could be used if we had a situation where a child couldn't afford, say, soccer cleats and shin guards, that we could get them cleats and shin guards so that they could play. Or they couldn't afford the bat and glove. We could.
Talking about the equipment, do you know how the rec districts, because we're not a district obviously, are the rec districts talking all about being financially able to provide those individual helmets, bats, that kind of stuff, or has that been discussed yet?
It hasn't really been discussed because places like Eaton and them, their communities financially can, for the most part in Eaton, everyone can afford to buy their own.
I played baseball 100 years ago. Each kid has to have their own bat.
So that's what they're saying right now with
Oh,
COVID,
okay,
is that
COVID.
everyone should have their own equipment.
Yeah, normally we provide everything. We provide, a handful of bats and various size helmets, basically, and the catcher's gear.
Catcher's gear. But that would mean you'd have to have 2 sets of catcher's gear, and then 2 kids would be designated as the catcher for that game. Now, after that game, you can sanitize all of that down, give it to someone else, but during that game, they couldn't cross.
So one got injured.
Right.
It's really just buy a bunch of bats. Everybody's gonna have their own glove already. We probably already have 2 sets of catchers. Doesn't.
Not for each age group, there's probably not 2 sets
When I
of
coach
catcher's
is
gear.
one. As an example, my son Andrew still plays club ball, and we're in a fall league in Walmart, unfortunately, in Boulder County. Health department's super strict. We've been playing every Sunday afternoon doubleheaders. And we actually got warned they were going to kick us off the field because the players have to wear masks, except for on the field, and they have to, in the dugout, they have to stay 6 foot apart. You can't stay 6 foot apart.
No, it's not that big.
And you have to have your equipment 2 feet apart, your bags, and your regular, it's a mess. And I don't foresee, next month's the election, this and that, things aren't just going to change overnight. This is going to last for a while. So that's kind of why we're anticipating a pretty slow first, second quarter of 2021. Maybe by next summer, things will get back to some kind of normalcy.
Well, and they're even talking, that our school district in particular, because South Valley Middle School is where the middle school kids wrestle. So come the first of the year, we won't have access to any gym in the middle school and that'll be for at least January and February. Because right now, they have to have half of their big gym set up as a cafeteria, because they can't have all the kids in the cafeteria at one time, so half are in the cafeteria, half are in the gym. And then in January is when they have projected for wrestling to start for the kids. And so once that starts, they'll set the mats up for wrestling in the small gym. So for us right now, we're looking at being able to only use the elementary school, and then having to find another option within the district to be able to host games, because for NVAA, we're required to host 2 weeks of games. So.
But the elementary doesn't have bleachers.
And they're also taking out the bleachers at the middle school and the small gym. They're gonna eventually put new bleachers in, but right now, the bleachers that they have in there have been deemed unsafe. So.
Said those many times.
So while it would be great to have 2 kids in grades 3rd through 6th grade for basketball, we don't have any way for them to practice. I mean, even if you could start practice at 3:30, and parents would let their kid practice till 9 o'clock at night, there's not enough time at the elementary school to get all of those practices in.
Cause in between you have to sanitize.
Right.
And close everything down.
So like for right now, when we host practice right now at the elementary school, Leilani gets there usually 15 to 20 minutes before practice starts, goes in, sets everything up, and then sanitizes everything. Then when the kids come in, they all come in as a team, they have to go in the bathroom and wash their hands, then they can go in and start practice. After practice, they all get hand sanitizer and they leave, but everyone has to leave, and then she has to sanitize everything down again. So it usually takes 10 to 15 minutes to get everyone out, get everything sanitized, let it at least dry. So, and that's where on the equipment, anticipating that spraying leather balls down that many times a day, it's gonna take its toll. And volleyballs are approximately $45 a ball. So, you know, worst case scenario, we're gonna have to purchase 6 to 12 volleyballs to replace what we've ruined sanitizing.
Right.
Should we increase equipment just to be on the safe side, depending on how next year goes?
I mean, it couldn't hurt. We don't, I mean, I've told Troy in the past, I'm not a spend it because it's there. I'm not a use it or lose it mindset kind of person. So I definitely would only use it if the need was there. I'd hate to need it and not be able to get it.
Well, we're
That would fall in the same deficiency like we're talking about the election ballots.
yeah.
If it's deficient, you can pull out of the general fund if needed to balance that out.
I bumped that up to 5 in case you need it. It's backup checks for bats and helmets and so forth. Rec equipment's expensive. Being a dad of a club ball player, it's really expensive to buy all the gear. And kids don't think like parents. They have to keep up with the Joneses. And Wilson 100 glove isn't good anymore, so Wilson 10,000 glove.
Right.
It's stupid.
Well, and even as I told Troy, you know, in some of the equipment that we have for a volleyball, for example, a Tachikara, a Molten, a quality volleyball starts at $45. But it's a good quality volleyball and it lasts, it has a sturdy bladder, everything is placed in there. Kids aren't supposed to kick a volleyball, but I guarantee you if it's on the floor and you're pissed off because your serve didn't go over the net, the first thing you're gonna do is kick it over to the other team. They hold up better and they last longer. I can go to Walmart and buy $16 volleyballs, but I can guarantee you they're gonna last the fall season and come spring. I'm gonna be going and buying new volleyballs again. So it's just not worth it. Plus with the better quality volleyballs, they don't hurt when you use them. And for kids learning to play, if the ball's coming over the net and as soon as it hits their arm it stings, they don't want to do it, and then it's not a positive experience for them. So I have learned in my time in recreation that it's worth the investment to get quality equipment versus buying cheap and then constantly replacing it.
What about biking time? Where do you foresee a biking time next year? If sports aren't allowed, but you can still do biking time.
So I have talked to Amy at the elementary school. She's the principal, and she is 100% on board with starting biking time again. I would see biking time, my goal is to be offering a minimum of 2 classes per month for biking time, but 1 day a week. Variety of different things. I've actually reached out to the tutor doctor out of Longmont, and they do some STEM classes with the kids. I was just looking tonight at what some of the options were for the classes. There's a build your own lightsaber, building a flashlight, building a catapult, mirror projects, kaleidoscope, stuff like that. So maybe doing a little bit higher level classes that might increase attendance a little bit, craft classes are fun, but there's only so many crafts parents want to come home. And sometimes they got a little messy last time. So, I think Viking time will pick up and take off again. The biggest thing right now, especially, and I think this may be through the end of this year, people are leery to sign up for things because what if it doesn't happen? What if my kid gets quarantined? What if, and that's their fear right now. I think at the end of this year, whether COVID goes away or not, I feel like people will at least feel more confident in the fact that they know what the reaction is going to be. They know what it's going to look like. So I think that you'll start seeing people sign up for stuff. Sports are different than Viking time because sports require us to follow what the league is doing, and if the league requires that we wear a mask for all games, then that's what we have to do. Viking time is dependent on what the school is. So the kids are at the school already. They're already used to what's being done at the school. So if Amy is saying, they need to wear a mask when they're in the class, then they're already used to that because that's what they're doing while they're there. I don't think you would see that difference like you do in sports.
And with the leagues, you have to follow the strict school.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough. Jen, I talked about with the fall sports, it's just being canceled and cramming everything to the spring, and we don't have any facilities to use. We really don't.
Right.
And so
Our schools
our
have
youth,
facilities for their own.
our elementary youth age kids did basically quote suffer because the town is restricted. We don't have any facilities to go out.
And that's where we'll reach out. I spoke with the director from LaSalle, and LaSalle has access to their middle school because they don't have wrestling there. What is impacting us the most is the fact that wrestling is held at South Valley Middle School, so that takes out an entire gym. And if they aren't able to put kids back in the cafeteria and do all the kids for lunch in the cafeteria, the new gym, or the bigger gym, is wiped out as well. So one option for basketball is that we would play our games at North Valley Middle School gym. We would just go there and host the games. It's the same district, so that's not that big of a deal. Or we would request to the school district to let us use the small gym at the high school 2 Saturdays during the month. So.
Is that a possibility?
I think I could persuade Doug to let us do it, especially if we know the dates in advance.
I mean, the pandemic has affected everybody, but really the Viking has the most uncertainty.
Well, and it's the most emotional, right, because it's our children.
Yeah, and you're right, they hit on the head, you see next door, it's really, it's not a fun time. And, there's always a blame game, because, what's happened the last few months, and I'm betting Jane, I talked to you about this, is when we follow league rules, they blame us as a town for our director. And, when we have games, only one parent's allowed because of restrictions, and, you have divorced parents, you have all kinds of scenarios you have to deal with, it's tough.
And they end up being mad at Janet over it, which isn't fair to her, because she didn't make the rules, she was just obeying them. Yeah.
And I would say for the most part, the people that were upset about the 1-to-1 parent ratio or wearing the masks pulled their kid out, straight out of the gate.
Yeah.
The remaining parents have been compliant. I mean, they may not have liked it, but they've been compliant when they've come in. They haven't thrown a fit about having to get their temperatures checked. I mean, in between games, they have a double header. You still have to leave and go and stand outside so that we can sanitize, and then I have to take your temperature again. Well, you stood out in the sun while you waited, and now your temperature is high, and I can't let you in, even though I know your temperature's high because you were standing in the sun. So then I have to tell you, okay, stand in the shade, let's take a few minutes and see if we can cool you off, then we'll take your temperature again. The parents for us have been understanding and supportive, so that's been nice.
That's very good. Well, good, then you don't have to to deal with the fights during.
Right, and I haven't heard, I mean, we had a family from Fort Lupton come to our first week of games, and Mom and Dad walked up with Grandma and Grandpa, Aunt and Uncle, and 3 kids. And I was like, sorry, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, and they were like, they're from out of town. I get that, but still, 1-to-1 ratio. I said, I'm happy if you want to rotate, I'll let you in and out. Happy to do that. Thankfully, they walked away peacefully. I think it made a difference that I had Jerry standing next to me. So,
You pay security.
exactly.
Hang in there, you're doing good. Appreciate it.
So in a nutshell, we're not really looking at a lot of expansion next year in rec, because it's just too much unknown. Bumping up equipment if need be. Hopefully Viking time is still an option for at least some of our youth. And as a seniors, kind of the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
It is the same situation.
It is. The one thing that is different from how things were done in the past, when Christy was here, the seniors have an account and they gave Christy a debit card for that account. And they didn't like how she just freely used it without asking for their permission. So when they took her name off of the account, they asked to not put mine on there. And I was fine with that. So the amount that we, like, for the supplies and small equipment, that number is higher than it's usually been. They reimburse for what I give them a copy of my receipts, and they reimburse for that because that's what they're more comfortable doing than me having that card. It's not a big deal to me. It's one less card to have to carry around. So,
So you think that'll stay consistent in one year next year?
I think for the most part it will stay, it'll stay consistent. That group has started, they came back much faster than other groups within Weld County. And I think most of that is because the group that come to the senior center right now is very interconnected. So throughout the whole pandemic, it wasn't like they didn't stay in contact with each other. So once the doors reopened and they could come back in, May was a slow month, and then after that, it took off.
Should that be 3,500 or 4,000?
Okay. My comment on that is looking at some of these other seniors, a lot of places don't have their own, so to speak. Like Milliken, Johnstown, they provide a room or a section of a town hall. Where here, they have their own facility, so they have much more ownership and they use it a lot more, which is a great thing, but, okay. See how we work this? You give me a budget, I lower it, the board increases it. This is how the process goes, okay? Dipping on my reserves.
Nothing to do to get more people on your trips. I know you have a waiting list for some of them.
So right now what's killing us is COVID, because we need to socially distance on the trips, and we need the van back. We took them up to Wyoming to go to see the Lincoln Memorial Monument and to go to the territorial prison. And as I was putting gas in the van, the guy at the pump next to me goes, "Hey, do you know the gas is running all over the ground?" And I was like, so I stopped, and sure enough, gas is just pouring out. There was a crack in the hose that goes into the tank. So we, no, because we had enough people to take 2 vehicles. So, well, which isn't hard with COVID. So God works in mysterious ways. There was a man in the gas station who heard what our problem was. I'm on the phone calling Troy and David, trying to figure out what to do, and he comes out and he goes, this Flex Seal tape, if you just wrap it around that hose, it'll let you put gas in and get you home. Then you can get it fixed. So we were able to get the van back. Got it to Mike's. They don't make that part anymore. So the replacement parts that he has found, the angle that the gas tank sits in there requires a bend and it's cracking. So, well, that was the thing. And that's what the seniors keep saying, well, we taped it up, it's fine, and we have more of that tape, we can just tape it again. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So, yeah. So we're just waiting to get that back. They are chomping at the bit to do an overnight field trip. They want to go to Deadwood in South Dakota, to which I'm pretty sure we could probably fill up non-COVID regulation, both the van and the bus for that. And they also want to go down to Pueblo and do like the Royal Gorge Train. But again, the governor has not released, he's not said it's free for the seniors to move about the country. So it's kind of, we're still doing everything really on the down low.
Just smuggle them out of state.
We're just being discreet. We're tinting the windows, putting pictures of dogs up. So
should we give somebody else a crack at that?
he thinks he's found a place that he can get them from.
So it's been there for a while.
Yeah.
If that's what it's been waiting on, it's been there for a long time.
Yeah, it was been there since our field trip last month. So
I'll probably talk to Mike and see what's going on, kind of.
Somebody fabricate.
I was just gonna say, you can find a fabricator, no big deal.
Well, what Mike done for me is we'll just go on Sunday to go to auto salvage and look for pieces and parts for my old car. And if you can't, it's a 1992 Ford Econoline van.
You can do that until you find a fabricator to build it.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be the same age as the one in Brooklyn.
Right. Fuel hose is the fuel hose.
Yeah.
Be screwed up. Probably make one out of metal, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and if that's the case, we have a fabricator here in town. We can do that.
There's one other thing, I mean, we bumped with small equipment, but, town-sponsored meal. Years ago, I established this line item because I used to do a quarterly manager's meal for the seniors, and I really don't do it anymore, but Jen, I was talking recently, the UNC kitchen will close the first weekend or first week.
Meredith thinks it will close the 18th of December.
18th.
So it's 2 weeks that they won't have meals on Mondays or Fridays.
So thinking about that, really didn't think about much in the past, but we have a more active senior group, and they really adapted to their carry-out meals, still pretty strong turnout. Might consider increasing this a little bit because I like the town still providing meals to seniors weekly, even though UNC Kitchen's closed.
Yes.
Because when I delivered meals over the summer and helped Janet out, I saw firsthand experience of a lot of seniors that need that meal. So I'm gonna bump this up to 15. Just, don't splurge. Cheeseburgers.
We're going
steamed
prime
hot
rib.
dogs.
I'm
Hot
telling them,
dogs.
surf and turf in December.
We're gonna have a taco place soon.
Yeah, tacos are cheap. Senior will eat fried chicken every week.
Oh,
I
they
eat
would.
it every day.
Every day,
Yeah.
it's good stuff. And, okay, so much for holding the line on that one. All right.
What about, the rec department did a lot of that food service, the community meals for the kids last year, right? Do we need to have anything in the budget for that? I know it was all basically provided by Will County, but.
This Will County, pretty much that only involved, the fire department did great in volunteering to help, but it really involved just, staff time. And it later on that.
It's a big deal when school is not in session, but when school is in session, the school, for all of the community, 1800, even right now, all of my kids could do it.
Even
online.
non-district kids.
Yes, that's right, non-district kids, right now,
So,
but,
if they wanna do it, us do it again next year, I think by all means, we'd be happy to in the summertime. So,
It worked really good.
yeah, we're pretty good. So, we have a pretty good report of what kind of food back right now.
Yeah,
So, we're even having a kickball tournament here in a few
they are
weeks.
gonna have a kickball tournament on the 24th.
So that is rec and seniors, first go around. Again, these projections, I gotta tweak once I get the newest financials, like small equipment. Unless Janet's spending money I don't know about, that's not gonna be that amount of money, so. Museums, I've talked about, there's really nothing to museums. It's really pay for their phones, their internet, security, which is their dicta guard, whatever. Not much in our buildings and grounds, it's very nominal. But it's our building, so we can put money in there just for that.
Did they bring up needing a roof over there coming up, am I dreaming that?
how do we do that recently?
I don't recall a roof, we did the roof replacement at the community center.
Right, but I thought that they had mentioned that they were,
Was
this is something coming up.
Was it an AC?
At the museum.
Yeah, easy.
I thought there was an elevator discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was definitely discussed.
They want an elevator. I don't have 80,000 but back
Get my hands on that.
Right. I don't, I have to ask them, I don't remember a roof issue, they haven't said anything.
I don't remember them mentioning anything about
I
it.
might make that up.
Yeah,
I feel like I remember something like
public works,
It's not, wasn't.
police, planning and zoning, B&G, admin. Well, that's general fund for the night, which I knew would be relatively quick. I'm gonna, if the board doesn't mind, just look at a couple of small, special revenue funds, because one, we already looked at the LE fund, of course, library fund we talked about. Cemetery way for David. Conservation trust here. So part of the rec, budget is we put 10,000 in there for ball field maintenance. So that's everything from painting, sprinkler repairs, sod improvements. So generally, you talked to the board, as you told me here a week ago, about the warning tracks for the fields.
So we're looking at putting warning tracks in on the outside of both fields. So it would just follow the first baseline and the third baseline, but it connects to the fence. And it'll go 6 feet in. It's not the full size of a regular warning track. A warning track is to let the player know that they're coming to a hard surface, meaning a fence. We're using it as a means to control the weeds, because right now on both fields where the dirt meets the grass, we have a really hard time keeping the goat heads out. And the problem is, once the goat heads get in the grass, you can't get those back under control, because to kill the goat head, you're gonna kill the grass. We've also had a bunch of sprinkler line issues with the main, where the valves are on the east field. So every time they go in and have to dig out that grass to make a repair, the grass isn't coming back, and now it's dead, and now the weeds are moving in. So the warning track will allow for us to mitigate that. It'll be a dirt surface versus having the grass, and it will allow us to spray that fence line with what will actually kill the goat heads. I got a price from Bigfoot to do the work, and it was approximately $11,000 to do it on both fields. And that's with them doing 100% all the work, coming in and taking out the grass, leveling everything out, putting down everything we need, and then doing its actual infield mix that they put on the warning track area. I talked to Troy. My thought process is, well, that's not that was a really good price. I was expecting it to be considerably more. I feel like we can remove the grass ourselves. We can get a sod cutter or a bobcat, take that grass out. We do have some areas where we could transplant that grass that it have died. So reuse some of that, but it's just aesthetically, it will look better. It'll be easier for maintenance. We'll move sprinkler heads in, so we're not watering the warning track and then having big puddles of water. Reduce some of the area that's needing to be watered.
Have you talked to Bigfoot about a modified price if you do the demo basically ourselves?
I have not. I just got the quote from them on Friday,
Yeah.
and I just haven't had a chance to.
Okay. Well, I want to bring that up because Jen and I had a conversation. I didn't put it in the budget at all. It's not really a capital project, it's more of a maintenance project. And in Conservation Trust, real quick, the revenues are solely our lottery money distribution that we get from the state based upon our population. So we get around 30,000 a year. So it's not a lot of money. And traditionally, we've used this for ball field maintenance and Trees of the USA. This year, we budgeted for another park project that didn't come to fruition, but fund balance. Do you anticipate that would Bigfoot do that this year, or wait till next spring, Janet?
So I would like to, this fall, I mean, ideally, if you know, money were never an issue, do it this fall, get it done. It's better to do it because come spring, that's when Bigfoot's gonna be slammed.
Yeah.
If we do it in the spring, we're gonna have to get it on the schedule now for when to do it, and then it's pretty much a crapshoot because you don't know what the weather's gonna be like in Colorado. So, in a perfect world, doing it now, we could break it down into 2 parts, remove the grass, get it prepped and ready, and then in the spring have them do it. I would venture a guess right now Bigfoot could do it for us, and maybe if we asked, you know, would you give us a discount, 1, if we do the work, the prep work ourselves, and 2, if we do it now? Would you give us a discount for?
Some will depend on how much discount they'll do for the prep work. If it's nominal, then just have to do it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once, I support that idea because the goat heads over there, once they're out of control, you can't get it back in control. And I like it because of the foul balls, the safety, better safety for the kids because once they feel that different surface. But you don't recommend the outfield fence, just the sideline fence. But we actually,
No, it won't go to the back.
Oh.
just the sidelines or the first third base
It
sidelines.
goes straight down the foul line.
Right, the foul
And that's
line.
how I still call them the new quadplex at Firestone, that's how their fields are. They just do the sidelines, and the grass goes up to the outfield fence. So,
And right now, on both outfields, we have grass abutting on both sides of the fence. So it's not as much of a problem. It's just killing us on the first baseline on the east field and third base on the west field, because the goat heads are insane.
once you get a price, let me know. I just highlight this with a note. If we do it this year, it's fine because we actually have a budget expenditure that would allow it.
Okay.
Because right now we budgeted 61,000, we're anticipating 22,000, so we want to have them in the budget. And fund balance right now is pretty decent. So it's just a numbers game, do it this year, do it next year, kind of MVP conversation we had last night. So, if that's okay with the board.
Will the vegetation adhere in the fall enough to survive through the winter and grow back next year without having another dead spot?
For the grass,
Yeah.
they actually say this is like ideal time to put grass
This is
in.
the
Grass
right
and
time.
trees is the time to do, this is the time to do it.
Trees are low right
Yeah.
Maybe about
Yeah.
65, not 85.
No, yeah, this is the best time.
Next week.
But it's
Next
also
year-
not, it's also not 100. So the
True.
grass doesn't need as much, it actually holds onto the moisture a little bit better.
That's a cooler night.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll revisit this once you give me a number. I'll bring it up again next week. I'll just highlight this. We already talked about Carl's Elite Fund.
Give them a number for the sand volleyball.
Oh, yeah, you told Jared your idea last night. Go ahead.
We already talked about
did
it.
you?
Yeah, because I play in the cornhole league, so I
Okay.
talked to you.
I'm just,
Fill up one of the sand pits, the volleyball pits we have already with
Mhm.
sand. Then we can just pull it back out for Harvest Daze. So we can have a sand leak in the.
I just don't know how much maintenance that's gonna be.
The hardest thing that's gonna be with that is keeping the cats, like cleaning out the poop from the cats. But I'll tell you, I'd rather clean out the poop from the cats than clean out the goat heads that are there now. So,
Trying to play some sand volleyball next
I did mention last night.
do you want
that-
beach sand? You want the very fine?
year. It can't be gravel.
I want Mexico sand. And I want Cozumel sand, not Puerto Vallarta sand.
I will mention that earlier this week, Mary sent me, I think it's basically from Tree City USA, a pre-order list for trees. I actually sent that to Bonnie, because I trust Bonnie on trees. She knows more than I do, because I don't know nothing about trees. And they're pretty, they're like 1-inch calipers, and they're like $100 a piece. Minimum order is 20. So I bring that up because I'm thinking about, I told Bonnie about 10, more of the flower, smaller trees for decoration like we do, but 10 of the bigger shade trees. And I need to talk to David about this, but putting some shade trees around the outside perimeter of the mud volleyball and horseshoe area, especially on the south and west side.
But I don't wanna plant trees if we can't water them, because more than half the trees we plant every year die because we don't water them.
Exactly, so they have to be put in the right locations,
Or they need to be watered.
or they need to be watered.
Can
Put 'em in
we,
my backyard, I'll water 'em.
can we offer a tree sale to our community with that's pretty discounted rate, right? I know that when the PPP was in effect, we were looking at doing something like this.
You mean buy trees and flip them on the PTT?
Well, it wouldn't even necessarily be flip them, we don't have to make, I wouldn't be trying to make it be
I
a
know,
for-profit
I know.
thing.
It'd be a fun, I don't know what the restrictions are on those, I didn't read through the details, if we have to put them in park facilities, or how, I just don't know. No, Mary mentioned, right, you said Winter gets them every year,
Oh, yeah.
and they just do whatever they want with them?
Well, they do a huge tree sale for Arbor Day,
Well, that's what
And
they do
some
with.
to the
Oh, I
community.
didn't know that.
but they plant their own tree farm
Oh.
and then pull them out and put them where they want them as they need them.
And we
Is
just
that
don't
a
have
Treasure
very
Island demonstration garden? No.
They don't keep them there, but you need to decide now.
I never heard back
Those
from.
trees won't last.
I
They
know.
might be gone already.
Well, it's a pre-order and you have till December, I believe, but you're right, you gotta get your order in quick.
Yeah, you have till December in a perfect world if they have stock,
Mm-hmm.
but once they're gone, they're gone.
Okay. I'll look into that, I'll let you know.
There's 18,000 in, for the different committees, right? That's what we have budgeted in there between the committees?
Not anymore.
Oh,
Because that was based upon that tower coming in, getting that revenue, never came in,
gotcha.
never came in.
But Tree City USA has some.
Yeah, actually, I just changed that. Conservation Trust, it's 1330 what we spent. Well, you guys were talking about the 6,000, so we have to spend that money, so I just bumped it to 6,000 because we have to qualify, it's 3,000 population is $2 per capita, so we budget 6,000 to maintain our status. So if we don't buy trees, and these trees won't be purchased till next spring anyway, so it'll be next year's budget, right?
They come in April.
So, what I told David and Todd is that the money can be used for trimming and maintenance, to start trimming and finding trees to maintain in the parks, which we always do. We can't plant trees out of this fund in the cemetery, but we could trim trees in the cemetery and use this money. I know it makes no sense, but that's how it works. But we,
could use next year's for our tree.
next year I budgeted 6,000, so.
You said something about a place to store them where they grow,
A tree farm.
Just heal them into the ground.
Yeah.
And
but then you
grow
move them again?
Well, then you sell
Until
them
you
out of the
find-
ground. Just like you go to the nursery, they're healed into the ground, the
Yeah.
mounds. Well, then they just keep them for several years, and then they dig them up and sell them.
Okay.
And you can sell them based on caliber, so you can, buy a 1-inch caliber tree and sell it as a 2.5-inch caliber tree a couple of years down the road for a lot more money.
Just thinking of utilizing the space and the moisture, the new pond that we're gonna dig over there by the east ball field, that'd be large enough to, that'd be sheltered from that detention pond there.
Behind the community center.
Right.
I would think that the root system would change the detention.
Never seen a tree in the detention pond, I guess, is my thought, right?
Likely not, usually around the perimeter.
Right.
But, one of our midterm capital projects, which we'll just discuss next week as a review, is the town talked about doing a community garden. We just haven't got some location yet, and I've got something in mind, but a part of that could be a tree farm maintained by the town that you could start growing small trees and then sell them and get bigger.
I'm just thinking like, the trees come in and the people come buy them.
Just buy them on the spot.
Right. I'm not.
Which I assume that's what you meant, because they wouldn't come in until next March,
Right.
so.
Healing them into the ground takes a lot of work, and we can't even keep them alive in our park, so I'm not in favor of healing them into the ground,
Okay.
personally.
Yeah, let's let people kill their own trees. And, at least we have the option to get them trees.
Well, what I could do is, does anybody know anything about trees here? Well, I know Adrian does.
This is not here, usually.
Well, if we're gonna place orders, another 20 tree order, like Mary said, I've gotta get it sent in pretty quick. I just don't even know anything about trees.
Got that list that we were, the forest trails and trees were provided by the CU extension office.
I will send that spreadsheet to you.
Well, it's the same people that write the list,
Right.
put the trees on the list to buy,
So they're the best
they're
ones-
mostly
They're all the best
fine.
ones for the area.
Yeah, they all qualify for Colorado for the region, but I just don't know what
It
tree
just depends
does
if you
what.
want
Well, that's
flowering
good.
or big shade
Yeah,
or
that's what
combination.
I know they're valid,
They're
I
all
mean, they can be
good
planted,
trees
I
for
just
the
don't know
city.
if they're, how big they get or nothing.
Oh, that's no big deal.
Yeah.
So,
And one thing that they do in Windsor for a tree sale that takes all of the financial question out of the picture is people buy the trees beforehand, so they know exactly how many they're gonna sell. They will block out certain numbers of trees, and they're all sold before they come in, and the town has to pay for them.
So maybe for the first year, we just order trees and then we start a pre-sale
Yeah,
for the years following.
yeah, to maybe think small and then,
Right.
have a display at the site and, start
Yeah.
telling people what to pick, and then there's no danger of losing money
Been a lot of trees.
or ending up with a truck full of trees that you don't have anywhere to put.
okay, I'll send you a spreadsheet tomorrow. I'm fine with that. That'd be a pass to you, it'd be a money maker. You could, as cheap as those trees are, you could make 100% profit on trees. Honestly, somewhere $75. I'm gonna wrap up tonight with Harvest Daze, because then it's capital improvement fund, water, sewer, we'll talk about those next week. I'm not sure what to do with Harvest Daze, kind of like direct conversation. I just penciled in numbers, I think basic donation, usually the mayor, drives this one, and then I do the golf tournament. It's a guessing game. I think after this year, if the golf courses are open, I think I'll pack it, to be honest with you. But with the economy, the donations, last year was great, so 11,000 for donations that the mayor got. The golf tournament brought in over 12,000. But this next year is, It's unpredictable. I kept the golf tournament the same. If we have, we don't. I mean, we're not having it this year, I canceled it. Next year, do you think lowering the donation is practical based upon our local businesses and their status? Probably. Okay. And, this fund is actually pretty stable. It's about $30,000. So as far as expenditures, I keep it basic. You know, the fireworks, you know, I have fees to pay for the golf tournament, to rent the course, and for the meal. So overall, I make about $78,000 total minus expenses.
The fireworks are gonna increase, right?
They told me 6,000. They bumped it from 5,000 to 6,000 last year. It was more of a 2-year commitment, so I left it at 6.
Isn't this our centennial?
It's 150th year of the town, not Harvest Daze, of the town. So that's a discussion for the board. I mean, how much do you want to bump this up? I think we should some. I just don't know if we're going to have it.
Yeah. Well, the fireworks we know that we're gonna have for sure.
145.
Is it 45 years?
It's 1876.
1871.
It says right here on the logo, 1876.
Oh, it should be 1871. We have 2 dates.
That's a good point.
Well, one was
Closer out
when
the
it
hall.
was founded and one was when it was actually incorporated as a town.
Yeah, there's 2 different dates. Cause I go up the bottom left corner of this plat. That's when it was platted. If you look at the Google Platteville, I mean, it has 2 dates. So we'd have to decide which one. We wanna wait 5 years to do the 150,000 year.
Hopefully COVID will be done by then.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
We'll do the
Yeah.
150th time.
So,
I think we should spend more money on it first. Waste as much as we had budgeted for last year. Who knows what's
true,
gonna
I mean,
happen?
I just took out the miscellaneous.
So what are we gonna increase money on?
Beer garden.
We'll have lights out there.
Yeah, we'll have some more lights out there. I mean, by then we could do, we can do all day mud volleyball and go into the evening and everything else.
There you go. You could do, I mean, if you wanted to expand the event, you could do more activities that would keep people there all day, cause, what I noticed last year was the parade was big, we had a great turnout for mud volleyball, for the car show, and then it died, and then we had a band come, and there was hardly anyone there for the band. So you wanna keep people there, if that means that you like push the start, you know, you don't start it until 1, you know, you do the parade in the evening, I mean, there's a bunch of things you could do to, you know, have an afternoon band and an
We
evening
talked about the
band.
2 bands, we talked about like providing face painting for kids for free.
Well, the gaming trailer that we asked to this year for the teenagers was all ages. That was a new event we were gonna do, and we canceled that obviously. So,
So 150 in the fireworks, you know.
150 question mark.
Yeah,
right?
question mark. Troy says it's 150.
Just do the approximate.
Approximately. Why don't we revisit this after, I don't know, this next week, because I don't know what to do with Harvest Daze as far as expenditures. I mean, entertainment and activities are 2 of the things we could increase. I just don't know what exactly. So,
We could build a really big hill, so we have for the bubbles and the slip and slide, and then in the winter time, it's like sled hill.
even
Get a real carnival to come in.
I've
like
tried, every
rides.
year I've tried, every year.
Good
There's
budget.
2 big families in Texas. One comes up to New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. The other one, my dad knows him years ago because he used to come to my hometown, Kansas. The other family out of Texas comes up to Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska.
It used to be one of us, the Halloween years.
Yeah. And a few years back, I saw one, probably 10 years ago actually, at the Erie Fair. It's a small kid, you know, it's really cute, well cleaned. They wore polo shirts, and they had the Ferris wheel, the tilt-a-whirl. They even had a little train with about 5 or 6 cars. and it went belly up. And that Upstart one, a couple years back, we had at Lincoln Park that evening, they went out of business. So, I can keep trying, I just can't believe.
I was thinking about it.
What I was told by the one of the two I talked to out of Texas is called More Shows, MOORE shows. August is horrible because a lot of fairs are going on at that time, county fairs, and we can't pull that crowd in.
That's where they can get a lot of food trucks too.
Yeah, a lot of food trucks, so. I can bring this back up next week if you want to think about it. And there's some money in there, we dip into reserves unless we can provide some more revenues, and that it is truly a donation based. But that's pretty much it. Capital improvement we're not gonna talk about tonight, so that's it as far as tonight's presentation. Any questions you may have for Diane, Jan, or Carl?
Thank you guys for all your hard work. Very much
I have a
appreciated.
question for you, Carl. You're talking about those tasers. How many times have you, as your force, been called to use one in the last year or so?
One in the last year. In my years here, only 2 times, in all my years here, but.
That's not on each other, right?
Now, well, that is. So it's not very often. I mean, usually if you make it to that level, then things are going bad, and it's a good resource to use.
6:30?
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Next Tuesday, Wednesday, 6:30.
I'll send out another.
I'll send out Everbridge tomorrow to the community that we're having it, and